Do any of you want AI data centers? No! Do you want them downtown? No! Do you want them in Mount Pleasant?
No! On May 11th, Ken Sims stood up with oligarchs to give us something that no one asked for and nobody wanted.
There's a reason Chip Wilson doesn't want these by his Point Grey mansion. They are going to make working class people, young people, regular Vancouverites play host to the machines that they want to replace our jobs and suck up our water with.
Just like when Capital bulldozed Hogan's Alley, and just like how Capital is displacing renters in our city, they only care about power and money.
Do you want AI data centers or do you want housing? Housing! Do you want slop or do you want trains and buses? Do you want tung 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 sahar or do you want a city we can live in?
It takes our power, it takes our jobs, it takes our environment, it takes our creativity. It takes everything and it gives us nothing in return. This is the people's house. This is our house. And in October, you will help a COPE-led majority, council, school board, and parks take back our house and give the power to the people of this city.
Power to the people! Power to the people! Power to the people!
Have you noticed that the conversation around AI is changing? Just a few months ago, it felt like everyone was talking about how artificial intelligence was going to transform our lives, create opportunities, and shape the future. But now, a different conversation is starting to take over here in Canada. Across the country, more Canadians are beginning to question what it actually costs to build that AI future. Communities are pushing back against proposed AI data centers, and some governments are even reconsidering major projects because of public concerns. Before we get into it, if you enjoy Canadian news and commentary that breaks down the stories everyone is talking about, take a second to subscribe, leave a like, and support the channel. It's completely free, and it really helps us keep these conversations going.
That's Hamilton residents protesting at City Hall on June 4th after a data center was planned for construction in their city.
They were pretty clear that they wanted a giant, mega monster data center that was to be used for enterprise and commercial purposes. Their wording.
Nick Sergis is a health journalist and organizer in Hamilton.
Someone wrote a blog about it. That blog popped up on the Hamilton subreddit. I read it. I messaged my counselor. That was 2 weeks ago, and it's been a wild ride since then.
The protests in Hamilton are now part of a fast-growing movement across Canada that's rising up against a wave of planned data center projects. Data centers are physical facilities packed with servers. That's the hardware that stores and processes the information that supports the cloud, the global finance system, and AI models. But the ones planned for Canada aren't just your average data centers. Reflecting the lofty ambitions of Carney's new AI for All strategy to massively expand investment in AI data centers across the country, those coming to Canada are a lot bigger. And that's raising concerns. For The Breach, I spoke with experts and people on the front line to understand what's happening. I found out how they're fighting back, and remarkably, in places like Hamilton, how they're even starting to win. The scale of what's coming is hard to overstate. We can see that from this recent paper from York University, the first comprehensive mapping of Canada's growing landscape of data centers. Lindsay Rollheiser is an urban economist at York University who co-authored the paper. She's been tracking the data centers coming to Canada.
There are about 192 operating data centers and about 151 plus in the announcement or construction pipeline. And then of that 151, the vast majority of those are these larger data centers, so what is commonly referred to as hyperscale data centers.
Hyperscale data centers. These are commonly used to train AI models, but they're also massively disruptive. It's well documented that they emit noise and air pollution, have high water consumption, and use enormous amounts of energy, which often relies on fossil fuels and even raises electricity costs for locals. Right now we have 5 hyperscalers in Canada, but we're on the verge of getting another 96. The concerns aren't only related to the infrastructure. People are also worried about the downstream impacts of AI, like disinformation, job disruptions, and surveillance. All the while, the technology itself massively enriches billionaires and tech corporations. And most of them aren't or won't be Canadian owned.
To put it in perspective, one data hall will be the equivalent of about 3.5 CFL football fields long.
It's insane.
20 locomotive engines, nose to back, long. And that's just the data center, the data hall. That doesn't include the power plant part, which will go up to 65 feet tall with 57-foot stacks, with 600 diesel generators, 800 chillers. We're talking massive infrastructure. Most residents, I don't think they really know the scale that this is coming in.
Especially, like you say, when you haven't even seen a rendering. The Wonder Valley project, they haven't had any public consultation with the province, unless I'm not aware of that. Whereas I see that Smith is coming to your community, I think it's June 24th, to meet with your MLA. I noticed there's 2 that are being proposed near Calgary now. I've heard that there's some in Bonnyville as well. I don't know if it's 1 or more. So can you speak a little about where you're at in the stage of this process and when the public needs to do something for your community and for Alberta?
Sure, it can be firing off some concern to the province, even to the federal government, because this is a federal push down, right? It's ironic that for how many years we've plagued with carbon taxes to make sure our carbon footprint is small. We're doing our part, only to now throw the doors open and say, well, it doesn't really matter that we're going to pollute in our environment, that we're going to not have a cumulative understanding of what the impact on water will be. Doesn't matter. We have to beat China in our data center rollouts. And somehow Alberta is the sacrificial province to do that. It's ludicrous to me. I think any level of help going federally, provincially, and municipally is great. But currently our process is the Alberta Utilities Commission, because that is the governing body by which the power plant has to be approved. There was a May 29 deadline to get in your statement of intent to participate. What that says is that you're willing to participate in this procedural process, but you can continue to put those in even after the fact. Some of them may or may not gain standing, which is kind of their term for saying we're going to utilize that in the hearing. And we're understanding this is precedent setting as far as how many interveners. We're up to over 1,100 people have jumped in to this pool and said,
that's amazing. That's incredible. You talked about Alberta being the sacrificial lamb for this federal initiative. I think it has a lot to do with making use of natural gas.
A U.S. company is going to spend $13 billion building a data center in Canada. People are calling this Canadian data sovereignty. So just north of Edmonton, Meta broke ground on their new 1 gigawatt data center, creating thousands of construction jobs. They had the premier standing there. There's real money which is worth having in the province and investment coming into the country. People saw this and thought that all the data that sits in there must be ours and belong to us. The dirt is in Alberta, but the company's in California. U.S. law reaches a U.S. company no matter where they are. Moving a box to Canada doesn't make it under our jurisdiction. This data center is going to run Meta's own products. I think it's good that we have investment coming into the country, but people thinking that this is something that's designed for our own residency and our own data in Canada are completely wrong. Made in Canada and owned in Canada are 2 different things. So the problem is that all the data stored there can get accessed by the US government with the Cloud Act. Don't get me wrong, having the jobs and the infrastructure and the build out I think is great. I think when people start to maple wash these things and say that they're ours and that they benefit us in a way that isn't just having the infrastructure development here, what I'm trying to say is that the data isn't sovereign to us.
What's interesting is that this isn't really about whether people like AI or hate it. Many Canadians use AI in one form or another every day. The bigger question is whether local communities should bear the cost of building the infrastructure that powers it. When people hear about large data centers coming to their neighborhoods, they're asking practical questions. What does this mean for our community? Will it affect electricity prices? Will there actually be enough local jobs to justify a project this big?
Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, has denied a proposed plan for an AI data center just south of Winnipeg. He then came out and said that for the small benefit that we may see in the economy, there are huge detriments to the people and the environments that are around these data centers, and it's not worth it. I'll link to the quote below. Kinew came out and also said that he wants to be mindful of the unique way of life and the benefits that rural Manitobans want to keep. He also said that AI data centers are encouraging highly addictive tools that monetize the attention of our children. This is in line with what his government wants to do, where they want to go ahead and ban social media and ban AI chatbots for minors. He also then says that he rejects needing to be a slave to surveillance capitalism to engage in a modern global economy. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I'd love to hear in the comments down below, and if you're looking for pocket-sized politics, you're in the right spot.
We're not going to move ahead with the data center in Ile-des-Chênes because there's a big threat to the environment and not much benefit to the economy. I reject the idea that we have to be slaves to surveillance capitalism in order to participate in the modern economy. And so the message to any company out there should be, if you want to have a thoughtful, human-centered approach to technology, come to Manitoba, because that's what we're interested in.
Hamilton City Council is voting this Wednesday, June 24th, on stopping all data center development for up to 2 years. But there is a loophole where they can stop this from happening. Here's what it is and what we need to do to stop it. Last week, the planning committee voted unanimously to stop all data centers for up to 2 years. Now it's been passed on to city council to vote on it. But what can happen is a city councilor could add an amendment that would exclude all current developments, including the Steelport one. Here's where you come in. We need to send letters to all our city councilors to let them know that we want no data centers in Hamilton. We want a moratorium, no loopholes. So check the link in my bio. There's some resources in there, a toolkit on how to send letters, how to call your city councilor. There have been over 60 cities who have passed moratoriums on data centers. They're not doing data centers. This includes Seattle, Denver, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. And there are some cities who've completely banned them, like Atlanta and Monterey Park, California. We have an opportunity to make history here. If Hamilton passes this moratorium, we would be the first city in Canada to do so. Send those letters, let your city councilor know how you feel, and I'll see you in front of City Hall, 8:30 a.m., Wednesday, June 24th.
So the most sustainable AI data center in the world is going to be built right here in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Vancouver, right across the street from my local neighborhood brewery. Shout out R&B. The NVIDIA chips that'll be housed in this building will run on 85 megawatts of clean power from BC's public electricity utility, BC Hydro. That's enough electricity to power 75,000 homes. And proposed data centers like this one are a big reason why BC Hydro is on track to run out of power in less than 4 years. Last October, BC Hydro published its 20-year power plan, declaring they'd be able to meet demand until 2045. But critics noted their forecast didn't account for the immense electricity needs of big industrial projects. So BC Hydro was forced to redo their calculations. And just a few months ago, they admitted there could be a power shortage as early as 2030. The government has already set aside 350,000 homes worth of electricity for AI factories like this one. But AI is not the biggest thing driving BC Hydro's looming shortage, because 5 LNG terminals in BC, Cedar, Woodfibre, LNG Canada Phase 2, Slisms, and Tilbury, all want to power their terminals with clean electricity from the BC Hydro grid. Slisms LNG alone would gobble up enough electricity to power 500,000 homes. 5 LNG terminals would require a total rethink of the energy system that has served BC for generations. It's been hot as in Vancouver lately, and my apartment, like many homes in the city, doesn't have AC, so I've been struggling to sleep at night. Just imagine if the billions of tax dollars governments are giving to LNG instead went to a massive retrofit program for homes across BC. And imagine if some of the electricity we plan to give to AI data centers was redirected to people's homes to power heat pumps that could double as much needed AC units in the summer. Instead, we're facing power shortages while our utility bills go up to pay for new dams and transmission lines, to subsidize the assets of foreign investors. I dream of a world where the government actually prioritizes the people that live in BC over the Trump donors and shifty private equity firms behind Slism's LNG, or corporations like TELUS, which is advancing the Mount Pleasant data center and is currently under investigation for illicitly jacking up Canadians' phone bill.
Another reason this debate is growing is because people are paying attention to what has happened in other places. As more AI infrastructure is built around the world, communities are watching closely and trying to learn from those experiences before similar projects move forward here in Canada. That means public consultation is becoming much more important, and governments are finding themselves under increasing pressure to explain exactly how these projects will benefit ordinary Canadians, not just technology companies.
Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, we need to talk about these AI data centers again. I saw a really strange video by Member of Parliament John Paul Danko. John Paul, I'm just wondering why you made a video about the AI data centers that looks more like a paid influencer video than a Member of Parliament asking the constituents what they want.
Our government wants to make sure that Canadian researchers and innovators have access to sovereign Canadian computing resources.
Is it because Slate Management, the people who want to build the AI data centers, lobbied you directly? I mean, per the lobbying records of the Government of Canada, they did. So strange that you would be pushing for this when you're on the Committee of Natural Resources. Oh, for those of you who don't know, yes, I am from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Proudly, by the way. I spent my nights as a little girl, as a Girl Guide, painting little yellow fish beside the sewers to remind people not to pour paint and other things down there and protect our lakes. So John Paul, Member of Parliament in Hamilton, let's just go through your video of absurdity really quick.
Canadian data stored in Canada on Canadian infrastructure.
Who gave you this script, bro? Who gave you this script? You're reading a script, and citizens deserve to know who paid you to put out this promo. You think people in Hamilton care? Somebody in the US can see that they used AI to look up a recipe or find out what rash cream to use. Nobody cares. Nobody's willing to trade their life for that. Next point.
We know there's concerns about data centers. We've seen the horror stories from the United States, and we want to make sure that that is not the case in Canada.
Cool buzzwords, bro. How? How are you going to do that? Like, what is your action plan, John Paul? Because America and their infinite billions of dollars hasn't been able to do it. So how are you, John Paul Danko, going to outsmart all of them and all of their engineers and all of their research and their billions of dollars and somehow pull it off? Please do share with Hamiltonians how you have the answer to this problem. You're literally gambling everybody's lives on a trust me, bro. That's what's happening?
That at full capacity, we could be looking at 30,000 new industrial jobs for Hamilton, $10 billion of private investment here in Hamilton, and $7 to $17 billion of annual GDP economic uplift.
Show your numbers. Show your numbers. Where are you getting these numbers from, and from whom? I mean, you're about to poison everybody. The least you can do is give them the math on it.
We know that the industrial use of this land for the past century has led to environmental concerns in Hamilton.
I don't know a single family in Hamilton that has not been touched by cancer. Not a single family.
We want to make sure that as this land is redeveloped for the next generation of advanced manufacturing, for advanced computing, for logistics and new jobs.
You're using buzzwords and I'm calling you on it. Nobody cares about jobs that are going to kill them, John. Nobody wants that job. Nobody wants to die slowly on a ventilator while watching their children get cancer, John. But they got a construction job for a couple months until AI took over, because that's what happens with those data centers. They don't hire and employ people forever. They build them and then they basically run themselves.
It is done properly and with all modern environmental standards in place.
How? Again, how? How will you do that, John? How? What is your plan? Because June 4th, tomorrow at City Hall, 8:30 a.m. is when the protest starts. 9:30 a.m. is when the meeting at City Hall starts. Citizens are raging against this machine, but you seem to have all of the answers but aren't able to tell us any of them. They're literally inventing infrastructure and the technology as they go. And it's changing as they go, which is why it keeps resulting in environmental and health catastrophes, because you don't even know what they're building until it's being built. So how are you going to prevent something from happening that is happening in real time? So you're a licensed civil and structural engineer and you went to engineering at Mac, so you should know better. In fact, I know that you know better. I know that you know this is a horrible idea. You still stand there reading that script that you haven't told us who wrote it for you, selling out the citizens of Hamilton. I saw you visited the police museum. I'm sure you saw a photo of my grandpa there, Bernie Arbor, the same one that the stadium is named after. You see, there's people who do the right thing under pressure. And then there's people who go visit museums where photos of those people exist. You get to pick which one you are now. I also think it should be mandatory that anyone who lobbies for these AI data centers has to move themselves and their families to live right beside them immediately. Let's make that law. I want your kids, your dog, your kitty cat, and grandma there living there. If it's safe and it's not going to cause any problems, put your family there. I'm Nicole Arbor in Hamilton. It's time to stand up before your Oski wee wee Oski wah wah is not drinkable. Go team. City Hall, 8:30 a.m. for the protest, 9:30 a.m. for the meeting.
I need help reacting to something. So the AI data centers in Hamilton have been a big topic of conversation, obviously, as they should be. It's weird for a company to come in and take like hundreds and hundreds of hectares, and for the community to not really know what's going to be done with them. Digital Research Alliance of Canada is going to have close to like 3.5 hectares of land that they are going to use for an AI data center. And here's the thing, if you have done research at a Canadian university, you know how essential Alliance is. During my master's degree, I worked with Environment Canada on simulating conditions in Toronto if we were to change the amount of greenery or if we were to change the albedo of rooftops, which essentially is like how white we would paint the roofs in Toronto. And all of this was used to inform building code policy as a climate change response strategy. And none of it would have been possible without Digital Alliance. Digital Alliance has a couple of clusters of supercomputers across the country, and all of these computers are so important to climate modeling because they calculate things that would take humans years and years and years and years, like lifetimes, and things that normal computers just can't. Most reliable climate modeling that has come out of Canada in the last 7 years has been because of Digital Alliance. It has definitely had a net positive on the climate movement. But there are also some things that give me pause, like the CEO of the company, Michael Schull, saying that some things were kept confidential from the public due to the competitive nature of building AI data centers. But at the same time, Digital Alliance has also looked for locations where infrastructure has already existed so that they were able to reduce their carbon footprint. And I guess the cooling is going to use a closed loop system, which to be honest, I don't know very much about. But allegedly, it will get rid of the need for a large bank of fans, which is, I guess, what causes the noise in most data centers. And it's also going to use a power grid that already exists due to the infrastructure that was there already. So it's not like the ones in the States that are building their own natural gas sites or whatever to power these data centers that they're building quickly. But also none of this mitigates the feelings of the community who should have a say in what's going on in their neighborhood. All in all, I think Alliance is trying to approach this as ethically as you can approach AI data centers. And I'm personally not against the way that they plan on using AI data centers, but my opinion doesn't matter because it's not my community. What needs to be prioritized is communicating with and listening to the community where these data centers are going to be located. There's the even bigger problem of Slate Asset Management's property being 324 hectares, where Digital Alliance's cut of that land is only like 3.4 hectares. So far, I don't know what's going on with the rest of the Slate Asset Management site. I doubt every company that's going to use that space is going to go about it in the same way that Alliance is. I support Alliance. There's a lot of environmental work that I wouldn't have been able to do without them. But at the end of the day, any technological development should be community-centered. And I hope that whatever happens in Hamilton, the community will be the focus of it all and that they will actually be listened to instead of just being dismissed.
Daniel Smith just announced that Meta has chosen Alberta to build its first Canadian data center, calling it a historical $13 billion investment that will create thousands of jobs, strengthen the economy, and help position Alberta as a global leader in AI and technology. But is this what people want? Judging by the vast majority of comments on Daniel Smith's announcement, it is not. Why? Because it crosses political boundaries. On one side, AI data centers have a massive impact on the community surrounding them, and they destroy the environment. On the other side, they are part of Carney's new AI for All program, which our government will use to subsidize and control AI companies in Canada, just like they do with the news. Not only that, but those AI data centers are required for them to be able to enforce Bill C-9, Bill C-22, and Bill C-34. So just like I predicted, Albertans are being sold the idea that these are good for the economy. But in reality, we are building the infrastructure they need to enslave us.
At the same time, Canada doesn't want to fall behind in the global AI race. Countries around the world are investing heavily in artificial intelligence because they see it as a major economic opportunity. So governments now face a difficult balancing act. encouraging innovation while also making sure communities feel heard. That's a much harder challenge than simply announcing new technology investments. And if you're enjoying this discussion, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Quick question for you all. If your town was proposing that you were about to build the world's largest data center within your community, would you all be for that or against that, regardless of political views? How would you feel about a ginormous data center being built within your community? It's happening within my community, and my community is fighting back. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Little Town Big Data. We have something called the Olds Transparency Project, and our community is banding together to stop this data center in its tracks. So my question for you is, would you be okay and for a data center being built within your community? Now, it seems to me that our town has put political differences aside. As far as I can see, this doesn't seem to be very political. This is more community driven, and our town folks thinking about the future of our town and our community. But I have recently seen Janice Irwin jump in and get involved a little bit. That makes me nervous as a conservative woman, but I'm gonna stay focused because this is about my community. So question, would you be okay with them building one of the world's largest data centers within your community? Because I'm not.
Government we can't trust is allowing a tech giant we can't trust to build an AI data center. Because of course, this is the same tech giant that didn't want to pay licensing fees and just ban news links on Facebook and Insta. Yeah. Wait. They didn't want to abide by new legislation, had a temper tantrum, so now let them come to Alberta and build their ginormous data center. It's estimated to be as big as Stanley Park, except this will destroy land instead of preserving it. But don't you worry, it's being built far away. Oh, it's not. It's like on the border of Sturgeon County and Edmonton. If you've taken the Henday, you know exactly the places it's gonna go. And the Meta people, as well as the government, are telling us not to worry. They're not gonna use our water. They're not gonna use our electricity. They need to bring their own grid, which means they have to build a grid. Except the plan is to have the data center built before the grid's finished. So at some point, they're gonna suck it out of Edmonton. And we don't need your water. We have our own cooling systems. Okay. Now, I guess when you look at it on paper, all the money that's going to be coming into Alberta, $13 billion center, $4.6 billion grid, thousands and thousands of jobs. I don't buy it. Oh, sure, there'll be lots of jobs to build this data center and the grid. Far less jobs to sustain it. And once up and running, AI data centers take jobs away from people. But yay. Now people can make videos of their cats dancing. Stop doing that. You clicking on this shit is the reason why. All these data centers are popping up. Ask how that's going in the US. Communities are pushing back against them. Not in Alberta though. Come on over. The thing that's funny to me, because it's not surprising that Danny and the UCP continuously try and get American business to come here. I can't imagine why. But it's the fucking irony of this. Part of what the UCP did was introduce Bill 23, and that has to do with deep fakes. The UCP does not like deep fakes, even though a lot of what their followers push out is deeply fake. But you made laws to battle deep fakes. And what the fuck are you bringing into our neighborhood? A data center that is used to create deep fakes. Like Meta's been sued. It's a whole thing. Not protecting children, privacy issues, those fucking Meta glasses. AI is what creates deep fakes. You fucking hypocrites. Look, I know we all in some capacity use AI. I try to limit that use as much as I can. Oh, I know, it's fun. Dancing cats. But there are far bigger problems with the use of AI. And we want it in our backyard. Because of course we do. Everything will be safe. Our electricity bills aren't gonna go up. Right. Remember on those cold winter nights when the grid was almost gone? Yeah, don't worry, Alberta. I'm sure we'll be fine. But here's the thing, if you want these companies to come here and they need to bring their own method of electricity, why don't you let them open it up? Renewable instead of non-renewable. Oh, this is gonna bring us $250 million a year. Okay, how much is it gonna cost? How much is it gonna cost everyday Albertans? Forget that they're building their own center, their own grid, improving roads. There are still a lot of issues with AI data centers that are harmful. But I guess that doesn't matter when you're making a buck, huh, Danny? And besides, they told you it would be fine. Just imagine the deep fakes that are now gonna come right out of your backyard, Danny. The reality is that the UCP, much like Meta, can say whatever the fuck they want to say right now. They can pat themselves on the back, and we actually see the impacts. Because there's gonna be impacts. This is likely not gonna be a jewel in your crown. Hopefully you won't be around when these data centers are actually up and running. Oh dear God, please. Just because we have a lot of land doesn't mean you need to let assholes have it. Oh wait, I guess that's a historical thing for Canada. She's probably really happy that it's the Insta and Facebook dude. After all, that's where most of her voters get their information. Not deep fakes at all.
Oh, hi, it's your Alberta troublemaker. Our government just posted a fact check on Meta's massive new 1 gigawatt AI data center in Sturgeon County. Now, they claim that it uses less water than an Alberta golf course and will lower our utility bills. But let's take a look at the critical numbers that they're not putting on this graphic, because I have a couple questions. First, the water. Sure, the building uses very little water on site because it's a closed loop, but a facility this size demands an astronomical amount of energy. The natural gas powered plant needed to fuel it will consume an estimated 20 to 30 billion liters of water indirectly every single year just to cool its turbines. That is 200 times more water than a golf course. Second, your electricity bill. The private power plant isn't built yet, so Capital Power just signed a deal to dump 250 megawatts of massive demand directly into our current Alberta grid. Alberta runs on a deregulated market. When a massive corporation sucks up a huge chunk of finite supply, it triggers high demand pricing. That forces the wholesale price of power up, and those higher market rates get passed straight down to regular consumers on their next utility bill. And no, Daniel Smith has not put a price freeze or a rate cap in place to protect Alberta families from these market hikes. The government is relying entirely on a promise that Meta will eventually build its own power. But until that happens, we are taking on the risk. But when they tighten our supply, everyday Albertans will pay the price. So don't just read the front page of the government fact check. Always look what's happening behind the meter. Ooh, that's a good one. Let me know what you think. Are we being gaslit? Or is there some data that I haven't read yet? Let me know in the comments.
Call me a gay communist liberal, but I don't like the data centers being built in Alberta. I feel like that money could go towards healthcare, teachers, even a pack of Zins would be.
Have you heard this? The people in rural Alberta are upset about data centers going into their backyards. They weren't upset about pipelines going underneath people's homes, farmyards, rivers, oceans, and lakes. They weren't upset about that. They demanded that. Them and their conservative masters demanded those pipelines. Now, data centers are going into their backyards. And I agree with them. I don't think data centers should go into their backyards. But I'm not going to help them. I'm not sympathetic for them at all. I like data. Might as well be in their backyard. But I will agree with them. I don't think it should be in Alberta because those data centers will be powered by natural gas, and that is going to make all of your electricity go up. Not mine, because I have solar panels. Not mine, because I can move out of Alberta with the drop of a hat. But all of you people, you're stuck with the decisions you made. Your votes matter. And until you acknowledge that, yes, you didn't feel sympathy for the people that didn't want the pipeline in their backyards, and yes, your votes created your situation, I could help you. I don't want natural gas powering data centers in Alberta. I'm happy if they're in other provinces powered by renewables, like hydro or any other renewable, but I don't want them in Alberta either. But if they end up in your backyard, after what you've done to other Canadians, how am I supposed to feel sympathetic?
I came across this article this morning, what's behind a growing backlash towards AI data centers, which I found to be rich because in Canada, we only have 5 of these major data centers built. I think there's another 96 either under construction or has been announced. So it's a little bit interesting that we're already trying to regulate the 5 data centers that have been built. And the reason for this is, compared to the United States, where their concerns would be a lot more grounded because they're much further along in their data centers and just AI in general. And I'm not here, dismissing the issues that these data centers create, whether that is water and electricity usage, noise, and the damage to the land, the environment. I'm not dismissing it. It's just the timing is rather interesting, so we do need to talk about it. So earlier last week, Mark Carney comes out and announced a bunch of things. And for the past month, he's just been announcing a bunch of things AI related regardless if that is the 3 new data centers they're trying to build across Canada, some of it is supposed to use that $66 million of AI funding, or it's AI adoption by 2031, just because Canada is falling significantly behind in regards to the rest of the world, whether that's the United States, the EU, and China. And it's supposed to create like 250,000 jobs. Interesting enough, though, once Carney made those announcements, the premier in Manitoba struck down or blocked a data center that was supposed to go into pre-construction. And it's the same gibberish, it's the same lingo everyone's giving. It's going to be damaging to the environment, the electricity and water consumption. And the problem is we don't have the data to support those allegations, because we only have 5 that is operating currently right now. So I think the issue here in Canada is that we're taking the backlash of data centers in the United States and we're applying it here. In the United States alone in Q1, they've pretty much struck down $40 billion worth out of AI cancellations, because these AI are being popped up everywhere around where people are living, and it's creating noise. It's creating energy or electricity and water consumptions. Their electric bills are going through the roof, so they've been complaining. And due to that opposition, I think it's trickling back here regardless, and we don't have the data to support our claims. The US is already further along data centers. Their issue is that they're just building data centers wherever they can, and we're taking that information and running with it. And this is what I mean. So last week, Carney said, under our new strategy, the government will introduce new legislation, regulation, and standards to protect your data, your privacy, and your children, which means we are getting regulated. I personally think the government has been pushing out all these regulations and saying we need to regulate AI and data centers because that is their mandate. But I would like to hear what you guys have to say. Leave a comment. Till next time.
AI data centers. How bad are they actually for the environment? Thanks to the UCP that gave AI data centers an exemption for environmental impact assessments, we might not know. At least not through government assessments. But luckily, the Tyee in a news article details this and actually got an independent expert to evaluate the possible regional effects that AI data centers in Alberta might have. A little bit of background of the preferential treatment that AI data centers have got. 2 years ago, Premier Danielle Smith declared that her government wanted to woo $100 billion worth of data center investment to the province by 2030 with a bold new strategy. Smith explained that artificial intelligence was making our lives better, simpler, and safer. But to succeed, the innovation needed more energy and space. Alberta was open for business because a data center boom would foster innovation, create jobs, and promote economic diversification. AI investor and pro-Trumper Kevin O'Leary immediately championed the policy. Danielle Smith has the water, she has the fiber, she has the people, she has the policy, she's got the permits that can be gained there, and that's what we're working on. Smith's government waived an environmental review for O'Leary's $70 billion behemoth, claiming that data centers are not a mandatory activity, the purpose of environmental assessment. Conveniently, the province also axed its Water Advisory Council this year, a move that guarantees no embarrassing reports on the extreme water demands of data centers might question the province's claim about benefits. At the same time, the province created a concierge service for AI investors to achieve smooth sailing with regulators and speed to market. Even though North American citizens have increasingly rejected or imposed moratoriums on data centers in their communities for many reasons, the Smith government hasn't said a word about the liabilities, including noise pollution, heat islands, water consumption, smog, and higher energy bills. While Smith and industry talk about jobs, tax revenue, and economic growth, there is a striking absence of information in Alberta about the adverse consequences caused by individual or multiple AI data centers. The proposed Beacon Data Factory is a case in point. The project would occupy 900 acres and require 1.5 megawatts of energy around the clock. That power would come from 100 natural gas reciprocating engine generators organized into modules, exhaust treatment systems, and air-cooled radiators. Every year, Stelfolks notes, the project would consume 500,000 meters of cubic water and release 4.7 million tons of carbon dioxide into the air, what is roughly 1 million passenger vehicles. Beacon, the company behind these data centers, has so far proposed to build 6 data centers in Alberta, including 3 in the Calgary area at a cost of $4 billion. Collectively, Beacon's operations will draw 4.5 gigawatts of power from their own natural gas generators. Their electrical consumption alone will represent more than 1/3 of the entire electrical load in the province. These are the possible impacts of AI data centers in Alberta. Increased water demand leading to increased water scarcity within natural watersheds, constant noise pollution, including background hum, leading to hearing loss, insomnia, anxiety, and cognitive impairment, light pollution leading to loss of dark skies, air pollution leading to elevated greenhouse gas emissions, and health complications including respiratory and cardiovascular disease, and depressed real estate values leading to losses in home equity. And this is not to mention that these aren't going to be job creators. Once they're built, so you might get an increased job, maybe a few thousand jobs, when they're being built. But once they're built, those thousands of jobs go away, and there might be a few dozen permanent employment opportunities or jobs created by the data center. Is the increased tax revenue going to be enough to offset the health effects, the environmental effects, and the possible depressed values of housing that this will cause? Because everything has a cost. Danielle Smith is doing all she can to suppress these findings so she can move ahead for her friends like Kevin O'Leary. Transparency is a necessary ingredient for a healthy democracy, and the fact that she's trying to avoid publicizing these impacts is anti-democratic in principle. It should be up to the local residents, based on the actual transparent findings that this will have on their communities, for whether or not they want to have these AI data centers. Our rich friends and industry and corporations should not take priority over our democracy or the people that live in our communities.
This story really highlights a much bigger conversation that Canada is going to have over the next several years. Artificial intelligence isn't just another app on our phones anymore. Behind every AI chatbot, image generator, or smart assistant is a massive amount of computing power, and that infrastructure has to be built somewhere. The question is, where should it go and who benefits the most? Some people believe Canada should move quickly to become a global leader in AI because it could attract investment, create opportunities, and strengthen the economy. Others believe that communities deserve stronger protections and clearer answers before projects move ahead. Neither side is necessarily against progress. The disagreement is about how that progress should happen. If Canadians are expected to support these projects, they'll likely want to see clear benefits, whether that's local jobs, affordable energy, environmental safeguards, or greater transparency about how these facilities affect nearby communities. This is one of those issues where technology, politics, economics, and everyday life all intersect. It's not just about AI anymore, it's about trust. Do people trust that these projects are being developed in the public interest, or do they feel they're being asked to accept the downsides without seeing enough of the benefits? I'd really like to hear what you think. Would you support an AI data center being built near your community if it brought jobs and investment? Or do you think Canada should slow down and take a more cautious approach? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this is a conversation that's only going to become more important. And if you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.